In the last video, I went over my experience with the Westinghouse WGEN7500 over the course of the past 3 years, all the pros and cons that this unit has to offer. In this video, I'm going to be tackling one of the cons, which was the oil leak. That oil leak was coming from the oil pan drain, where you go to drain out the oil to do your oil changes. So I'm going to take you through the entire process of what I went through troubleshooting this problem. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you some pointers, especially if you're considering purchasing the WGEN7500 and you have not done so yet. Alright, so I have a roll of paper underneath the generator in case of any oil spillage. And right here you can see the drain port. I'm going to use this socket wrench right here so I can loosen it up. I'm going to get the drain pan underneath and we're just going to drain all the oil out. Then I'm going to take the crush washer off of that nut right there. Here's a quick look at the nut and the crush washer. Here is the crush washer set by HeliFounder, and I'm hoping I'm going to find something useful in this kit. So I'm going to unbox it right now and take a look. Alright, here's what we're looking at. Let's see if I can find something that's of an equivalent match here. I was kind of thinking of going with something slightly smaller. So far this one looks good. Yeah, I think I'm going to try this one right here. Right here you could see the washer on the left and then the washer on the right. Now just in case, I think I might try this one as well. This is a slightly smaller one. I'm actually going to go up to the drain hole now and just take a look at these real quick. So I'm going to be going with this first choice here, the first one I showed you for replacement. Seems to fit in there pretty good. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is fill up the generator with oil, and I'm going to bring it back outside and I'm going to start the generator, run it for about a half an hour, warm it up, shut it down and let it sit for a very long time to get that expansion and contraction to go. And what that'll also do is if there are any imminent problems with the way I put the new washer on, it'll let me know because I'll start to see the oil to leak. And just to let you know, I have these videos scheduled out. I think the first video of this series of the Westinghouse WGEN7500 is in like November sometime. So I have no problem waiting to see the results. I'm gonna wait a long time. Right now it's mid-August. So I think I'm just going to let this sit for a couple days, and then I'll do what I stated before. I'll turn it on, let it run for about a half an hour, and do that over the course of the next month or two, and just see if I can get the problem to come back. And if it does, or if it doesn't, I will definitely let you know. Alright, so unfortunately, it's the very next day, and I have some bad news. Ever so slightly dripping. So, it's a bit of an improvement. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm not going to give up quite yet. This was the size washer I used. I found one that's a hair smaller and I'm feeling pretty good about this one. So I'm going to get that swapped out. It's going to be a mess, so I'm going to spare you the time. I tried everything I possibly could with those washers to try and get the leak to stop, but nothing worked. So what I ended up doing was out of pure luck. I actually found out that I had a few days left on the Home Depot protection policy, the protection plan for this generator. This was pure and utter luck. I couldn't believe it. So I ended up calling up the protection plan. I got that whole process rolling, and a third-party company came out to pick up the generator, haul it off to do the fixing and repairs, and they actually stated there was an issue with the crankcase. The crankcase is actually made out of aluminum, whereas the cap that stops the oil from coming out, that you do the oil changes with, that cap is actually steel. So here you have the aluminum crankcase that has those threads that allow the steel bolt to screw into that hole in the crankcase. There are two different types of metal. So because the bolt is steel and it's a lot harder than the aluminum crankcase, it caused the threads to strip when I went and I possibly over-tightened the bolt that went into that crankcase. So yes, it could very well be my fault that I over-tightened this, but I wasn't sitting there with the socket wrench pulling as hard as I could to make sure that it was as tight as possible. I just actually went through and made sure that it was snug with the socket wrench. So what's the big takeaway of this video? If you're watching this video before you purchase the Westinghouse WGEN7500, just be very careful and make sure that you do not over-tighten that bolt. Make sure it's just very ever so slightly hand tightened. But if you are watching this video after you purchased the WGEN7500 and you don't have a protection plan or warranty is not valid, then you have a couple options. You can either A, get the crankcase replaced, or you can get a tap insert and you can actually drill out that hole to make it a little bit wider so that you can put a steel threaded insert in there that will actually be a lot better than the already existing aluminum threads.